Well, hi everybody, and we have a guest, James Zieger, today with us. We're really happy to have him. He's an amazing guy. I know him personally. I work with James behind the scene with GrowthCo. He's the integrator for GrowthCo. He makes everything happen. He probably very tired of me asking him all the time questions. How can I do that? How can you do that? It's like he's really my savior. So but before we start talking about, integration, processes, systems, all that wonderful stuff that I have no clue how to do, uh, James, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you guys for having me today. This is awesome. A little bit about myself. Oof. It's been a long, long 4-year journey, um, where I am now from where I was before that. Before really diving into even understanding a little bit more about myself, more about systems, more about entrepreneurship, I come heavily from the W-2 world as a chef, and a restaurant manager. So I did that for a very long time. Actually, before jumping into this, my longest tenure was 8 years that I gave to a company and kind of moved up to where I maxed out a little bit and where I could be.
What were you doing for that 8 years?
Restaurant management.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. That's what I did in high school. Uh, Jumped right into it. Actually, while I was in high school, I ended up working two jobs. One was as a line cook. I was the youngest saute chef at the restaurant that I was at, and then my second job was working at a restaurant supply store. So I had to learn on both ends while I was doing it.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I was saying that Caroline can relate to that. She can tell you why. Tell her why you can relate to that.
I have a son who's a chef, who is a personal chef, and he said, I never want to own a restaurant. He considered it. He's 28 now. In fact, Mary's daughter is a butcher, trained,
Yes,
skilled butcher. I know all about how exhausting that world is, and it's late nights and get up and do it all over again. And he would have such just physical pain from the work.
Yes.
Right. And he's worked in Paris in restaurants in Paris and Montreal, as well as here in Utah. And he's also done a lot of video work with food and creating food videos and things. Just being in a restaurant is so exhausting. So I don't blame you for wanting to get out of that.
Cool.
Our foray into entrepreneurship too regarding food was we turned our house into like a pop-up restaurant. We
yes.
moved all of our furniture out of the main floor, and we have the tiniest of kitchens for our home, but did actually 3 sittings in a night of a 7 course meal, French style 7 course
I
meal.
was in one of those. That
Yep.
was amazing. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, we know have a little peek into the world that you decided you wanted to transition out of for
Yes.
reasons that we totally can comprehend.
Oh,
From this.
100%. Your son sounds like somebody that I have to meet,
Yes.
even if it's just online and being able to
Yeah,
chat
no,
with.
look up Chef Alex, because then during COVID, his way of still having a career was he would post food on his Instagram. So look up Chef Alex on Instagram. And then he had a balcony. He was on the main floor, but he had a balcony, and he would
Oh
set
my
up his
goodness.
kitchen on the balcony. He would post a few days earlier what he was going to make that week. And it was usually just one item he was doing, savory. Generally, it was savory. And then there happened to be just a small parking lot directly across from his balcony, so they could walk up, and he would know ahead of time how many, was he going to be serving 20 or 40.
Yes.
And that's kind of how we got his following started during
Yes.
COVID.
Yeah,
That
that
is
was
awesome.
neat. It was very neat. So, but
Yeah.
anyway, from chef to
Yes.
integration system, tell us what got you to do that? What perked that interest?
Well, I didn't start at it on integrations, actually. Um, when I first moved over into entrepreneurship, there was a short window from when I was in the restaurant to when I started in real estate specifically. And I was working with a gentleman. I was actually running his business for a little while, and it was a little bit unconventional depending on where you live in the world. But he had a medical delivery service. So we actually ran that out of his house. So that's where I really started to see firsthand of like creating your own business, setting all of that up, um, bringing people on, training people in specific areas, and kind of starting to heighten yourself up into a little bit of a higher position. A lot of the skills that I ended up actually learning from him were more on the sales side of things because his actual job outside of that, even though it was still 1099, was a high end sales representative for a really high end furniture company. So it was really cool to learn the similarities. Like, even in that industry, in that business, you wouldn't know that like they read a lot of very competitive books like the Art of War, Sun
Yes.
Tzu.
Yes.
That's where I learned about that book. He actually had me read it. But there was a lot of skills that he was teaching me, like, hey, when you're on the phone and you're speaking to somebody, he was like, I want you to practice this at home too. He was put a mirror in front of yourself. So when I was sitting in the kitchen and I started taking calls for the business, he walked over and he put a little mirror in front of me. And he was like, smile, smile while you're on the phone because you'll notice
Yeah.
you can't have low tone if you're looking at yourself with a big smile on your face. So I owe a lot of the skills that I have with speaking with people and connecting with people now. I owe a lot of that foundational work and learning and understanding to that gentleman. So when I did cross over into real estate, that's where my mind immediately went. It's like, hey, I need to be a closer. I need to be a part of the sales process because that's where everybody wants to be. That's where you're told the money's at. So I spent a good portion of time failing and failing and failing and failing. So I started to learn about a year and a half into it that you can't really put yourself out there something that you're necessarily not. So that being said, I was telling everybody, "Oh, I'm a closer," and that just wasn't true. A lot of hard pills to swallow with learning a lot of those lessons. But when I jumped into it, I was part of a large community, and I think that in and of itself was the godsend to be able to have people that were sitting in higher levels to like let me know and tell me like, hey, I've been there, I've made those mistakes as well. Here's what I'm seeing, and here's what you're doing. So bringing that back and finally hearing it from people where it starts to click. I exited real estate for a little while because you hit that low point, which you will in entrepreneurship. You'll have those highs and lows all the time. And I went back to the W-2 life for a little bit. Uh, Only last a couple months. First check was amazing. After the the next couple, I'm like, man, why am I doing this again? Like, and that time was honestly it was a little worse than the restaurant industry. I thought working 80 hours a week was bad. When I went back into the W-2 force, I was shining oil trucks and it wasn't local. So I was gone from Sunday evening till Friday evening. I wasn't even coming home at night. I was in a different area for the entire week. So now I traded even more of my time, less time with my family, less money still. I ended up having a conversation with Jesse, and that's actually how I ended up getting introduced to the Growth Co. And that's how I kind of got introduced to falling into that role of being an integrator. Um, there's a lot of skills that I had that I didn't recognize that I had in the space because I thought about it before that. I'm like, hey, I can do integration. Like, I've messed around with technology my whole life just as a pastime and having fun. Um, Most people don't know that I actually didn't graduate high school in time. I went back to get my diploma. And one of the reasons I went back was because, hey, I want to get into coding, I want to get into technology, but I need that piece of paper to move further. So once I got introduced to entrepreneurship, that was when I just kind of like, nope, not going to deal with technology. I saw other people in the community doing stuff in the integration space. I'm like, wow, they're way better than I am. Like, there's no way I can live up to that. I can't build systems like that. I can't put these things together. So I was down on myself for a while on that. And man, once I had that conversation with Jesse, and he was like, I told him, I was like, I don't understand anything about coaching, any of that. He goes, it's fine. Leave it to me. I've already had conversations with people that told me that you have natural skills in dealing with systems, dealing with processes. I was like, yeah, but I'm not as far as long as I'd like to be. I see all these other people. That was where I really started to learn that it wasn't that they were further ahead of me and that they were better than I am. They just had different skill sets than I did in that area. Now, once I realized that, I was able to really start doubling down on everything that I was doing. And same as being a cook, being a chef, coming into the entrepreneurial space and trying to find your voice, it was just as difficult when I did start to realize what my skill sets were. Now I had to figure out where's my voice in the integration side. And in the beginning, it was a lot of that systematic stuff. It was really doubling down and focusing on connecting software, figuring out what software works well, how to improve that software. But as I started to learn a little bit more about myself, which is what I really put focus on in the last year, I started to learn like integration is a little bit more than that, especially if you want to start reaching high level. That's why we all got into entrepreneurship at the end of the day, is to hit that high level, pull yourself back. So that's where I really started to learn that it's not just about the software itself, but systems and processes have a whole new meaning when you start stepping into that area. And that starts with the people that you have in your business.
I love what you're saying, James. You said failing in the sales process. In fact, I have a son that's in sales right now, and thanks to some training I got with Grant Cardone, it's something that we were talking about with my son. He's dating a girl, they're looking at getting married. And to say that you're in sales doesn't necessarily elevate you in the eyes of the new father-in-law. It's really a skill set, this failing in the sales process, because almost nearly all of my children, except for my son that's the chef, has tried to do the door-to-door sales thing, whether it's pest control, solar.
Yeah, I started there.
Yeah, Dish Network, whatever it is. And they're on these teams where other people are just hitting it out of the park. My kids they've done okay, but not anything like some of the people that we know that are in that industry. And then you're telling yourself, I'm a closer, but the evidence didn't support that.
Exactly.
You still kept moving forward, because that's part of the difficulty, is thinking you're wanting to be good at it. I see this with my kids. They want to go back out for the next sales cycle and just hit it out of the park. And then I see them come home and they're like, well, it wasn't as great as I was hoping it would be. Because it really is a skill set. Someone who's good at sales, right? And that part where you said they put a mirror in front of you, he had you watch yourself and what's your facial expression when you're having these conversations. And then I also want you to talk about just being part of a large community. I would say that there are a few people who are successful all on their own.
Actually, I don't
Oh,
think
100%. I don't think I've ever heard a name of anybody that is where they are solely because of themselves, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to hit on that point with the skill set, especially when it comes to sales, where and I didn't see it at the time, and it wasn't anything that really stuck out to me to let me know that I was trying to do the wrong thing. And when you look back on it, it is very humbling when you go and you apply to a bunch of sales positions, because you tell yourself like, that's me through and through. I'm great with people. I'm great with conversation. And then you nail an interview and then you get out there and actually start knocking on doors, and 2 weeks goes by and you made no money, there's nothing more humbling than that. I tell you that.
Yes.
Yeah, no, exactly. And also when your livelihood and your family depends on it, everyone's like, "So, how's it going? How are you doing? What's your sales numbers so far?" Those aren't the conversations you want to be having.
It changes when it goes from, hey, how was the interview? Did you get the job? Oh, yeah, they loved me. It was awesome. We got along. I got the job. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, hey, I thought the interview was great. I thought they loved you. Where's the checks?
Yes, exactly. I also loved how you said there were a lot of skills I realized I had. So I think we all
Yeah.
have that where we're comparing ourselves. Okay, now we found this group of people, and then we start comparing our background, our successes to what we're seeing in this community. I love where you recognize I don't have to be that guy that's really great at this thing. Tell us a little bit more of how you transition from I'm in this community, but I don't measure up to them to actually I do belong here and I have something to contribute.
Yeah.
It, I look, when I look back on it and I reflect, it was actually very interesting, because it wasn't until after the fact that I actually hit that realization, if I'm being honest. Um, Getting into a community like that. And when I first got into the community, it was a lot smaller than it is right now. A lot smaller. But when you transition over into this world becomes your big world. So, for example, like when I'm still in the W-2 mindset, I'm still everybody that I know, everybody that I speak to, that's it. You put the work in, you get a paycheck at the end of the day, you take care of your family. None of those people are trying to start businesses, trying to be entrepreneurs, really trying to be successful. So when you get into a community and you're seeing that and that's fresh and all these people are trying to, and you had no idea that this whole world was over there, you throw yourself into it, that becomes your entire world. Like you leave behind all of those people, all those naysayers. So
Mm-hmm.
now everyone that you speak to, everything that you know is doing what you're working on. So once that happens, like you don't even know who to idolize yet at this point because it's still so new.
Mm-hmm.
And why I had such an issue with social media for the longest, I'm just now getting around to utilizing it. I
Mm-hmm.
should have been utilizing it years ago. It's such a
Mm-hmm.
stipulation. My wife and I used to argue quite a bit because she'd be like, "Oh, I'm seeing people post checks all over the place in the community." I'm like, "That's great, but nobody knows what they're doing on the back end and what any of that looks like. We're just seeing those quick wins." So that starts to become the mind frame, and that's where a lot of us start to see like, I'm not as good as them. I don't think I can be as good as them because they're posting checks and I have nothing to show for what I did.
Mm-hmm.
So once I started to like kind of tailor back from really paying attention to everybody and started being a little bit more intentional with who I was actually speaking to and who I was paying attention to, that's where things started to change a little bit. My conversation started to change. My thoughts about myself started to change. My thoughts about community started to change. And my thoughts about entrepreneurship started to change.
Yeah, it seems
So,
like it's the focus changes. Mm-hmm.
100%. And I didn't realize it at that time because I still went into it with, you're still thinking in the back of your head, like, I'm seeing all of these people do all of the big things and doing what I wish that I could be doing. And I just feel like I'm not there yet. I don't know. By the time I get there, they're going to be on the next level. Like there's no catch up.
Yeah.
But it's everybody's doing something different as well. So like what they're working on, it's kind of like that whole battle between wholesaling real estate and buying real estate. They're two different things. So if I'm comparing somebody's success in wholesale while I'm a buyer, then I'm comparing success with the wrong person.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not
And
apple to apple. That's for sure.
yeah, it definitely took a long time to realize that. So when I jumped into doing back-end systems for a coaching program. As you can imagine, that's completely different from real estate altogether on the front, like the front end. But on the back end, when it comes to systems and processes, it's the same. But now that I kind of, the fog dissipated and I have that one area that I'm laser focusing on and I'm learning how to put these systems and processes together for that, that's where I really started to expand in the skill sets that I had.
Okay.
What a good, I love you'd be a good storyteller. The words you use, the fog dissipated.
Yes.
That's such a good analogy, right, Mary? Of
Yeah. Oh, yes. Because
do
you
you feel
feel
like
like
you're in a
in the
fog?
dark.
And I've talked to a lot of
Yeah.
entrepreneurs where they're trying to build a business, but really it just feels like they're in a fog, and there's just a little glimmer of light in the future to keep them focused on which direction to go. But meanwhile, they're just in this really thick fog of I don't know where this is going. I don't know who's around me that can support me in this. I don't know if I
Yeah.
know enough to even get to that flicker of light I see in the distance. And I sense that was also your situation. But then you said you were trying to find your voice, which is also a really good way to describe how do you fit in, where does your skill set fit into any big picture that you're doing, and that's where your voice was realizing you're an integrator. Would
Yeah.
you define yourself as an integrator, or what was the voice you kind of identified with in that fog, I guess?
I didn't know. Like I was saying earlier, at that time I was saying that I was a closer. So that's what I thought that my voice was for a while. And you know, I love talking to people, especially once I get comfortable. At that time, I didn't so much. Like doing podcasts, jumping on Zooms. I was always the guy that had my camera off, just kind of sitting there listening and lurking.
Did you say listening
And
and
those
working or listening and learning?
lurking, just
Okay.
lurking. It's like, okay, there's 20 people in here. Let me figure out who I can silently reach out to after.
Okay.
Good.
Wow.
Um, but even that came with a lot of drawbacks. I think one of the another humbling moment. And it was another thing that I didn't realize until after the fact. When I had my first conversation with somebody that I thought like, man, maybe I should idolize this person and I just need to have a conversation with them and see how I can bring them value with everything that I've learned and everything that I have going on. And it was Jesse. I actually jumped on a Zoom with he and Chris, and at that time even my wife was really excited that I was jumping on a Zoom with them. So we had, I think it was about 20-minute conversation, and I was going into all of these things that I'm doing, all of this stuff that I'm working on. I'm I'm wholesaling as an individual, but at the same time I'm trying to put another wholesale team together after two had already failed. I'm trying to team up with people to build a system similar to, I think at the time I was using REI Reply. So something that was a little bit better than REI Reply. And at the same time, trying to figure out where I can fit in that space as well. But I'm also playing a connector. So I'm speaking to people that have deals and people that want deals and trying to piece the two together. So I was doing all of this stuff. And they had told me that I was doing too much. And I still ended the Zoom with, "Hey guys, let me know if there's any help that you need, anything that I can do to help you guys get a deal done." Why? Because I wanted to make a check. So I'm like, "Hey, I told you everything that I can do. All these little things that I've been trying to work on. Let me know how I can serve you." Now, I got off the Zoom and my wife asked me like how to go. I was like, "Oh, it was awkward. It was very awkward. I don't think they're gonna talk to me again. I don't think they're gonna let me know what I can do to help."
Mm-hmm.
What I what I come to the realization is I had no clarity on exactly how I could help them. The one thing that I really could come in and master, and therefore keep continuously reverting back to like, hey guys, let me know how I can help. Continuously asking that question. I didn't realize that I was putting all of my problems in their hands.
Interesting.
So basically, I was asking them to figure out how to resolve my problems and how to fix the fact that I wasn't making money right now. I wasn't successful in anything. I was trying to ask them to come up with the solution to the problems that I had.
That's very interesting the way you look. That's wow. I never thought about it that way. Is
It was a game changer for conversations moving forward. I canceled all of my Zooms and then I stopped asking people how I can help them.
Interesting. Well, at what point did you recognize that that's what you were doing? Because I think that's easy to
to
overlook
overlook? Yes.
until you're not having any success, and then you have to really step back and evaluate, well, where do I
It
need to?
was right after that conversation, right after the Zoom went dead, right after. And I was told that I was doing way too much. And then I was like, I got out of the Zoom with no clarity. Like there wasn't a, oh yeah, I need this. Would you be able to do that? And let's get a deal done. Great. I'll start making those calls when I get off, or when we get off the Zoom, or um, for the sake of being an integrator, it's like, great, I'll start building that system out as soon as we get off the Zoom. There was none of that. There was no resolution at the end of the call. Nothing moving forward. No reason to jump on another call.
So how did you move from that space? I mean, obviously you realized that you're missing clarity. Obviously, you kind of like
Yeah.
with and listen, we all did that. I know I've been there. Oh my gosh, I was doing door knocking. I was doing this. I was doing that. I was like all over, spread thin, really not focusing on anything, no clarity, and that's really something that I think out there a lot of us missed that. It's the clarity. So what did you do after you came to that realization? What the next steps that you took?
I said yes to the opportunity that I was given to start to kind of hone in on the skills as an integrator and to start putting a lot of those systems together for the Growth Co. Um, I think it was a couple months into doing that, I started to have the realization is that I really needed to work on myself. I really needed to do that. That's what I've been lacking for, was it almost 2 years at that point prior? I'm spending all of this time trying to figure out skills, like outbound skills, and I never kind of looked back and saw where it was that I was making mistakes. Why was there a disconnect when I was having those conversations and I wasn't able to see that I was putting my problems on other people? Why didn't I see that for a year and a half? Why did it take this one conversation to be able to reflect on that and come to that realization? So after going through that, and then after kind of like starting, I got on a Zoom with them. I showed them a little bit of like what I do have for skills when it comes to computers and software and programs. And that was going well for quite a while. And then it was, once I like laid in, I'm like, okay, I'm in my zone. Now it's, how do I keep going? How do I get bigger, bigger and better? How do I keep the momentum? Now I found something. I'm locked in. How do I build off of this? Because I don't want to stay lower level forever. It's not why I got into all of this. Um, I think I took the next 3 months, like really started focusing. I went crazy on, um, I don't know why I was blanking his name. Tony Robbins. I went really heavy on Tony Robbins for a good couple months. It really started digging into mindset stuff.
Yes, I agree with it. There's a lot of mindset shift that a lot of us I know had to do. We that's the only way you grow. I mean, I've heard somebody says if you can change your thoughts, you can change your life. that's where I feel like people are really stuck. It's that they think the same and they don't understand why things don't change. It's like that's
Oh, absolutely.
definition of insanity. And I've been there. I'm much more focused these days than I ever been. It's amazing. What's your thoughts, Caroline? Can you?
Well, I was just going to say I was just talking to someone just the other day that if we were supposed to learn things and recognize things earlier, it just would have happened. I don't necessarily have regrets. Just Miri and I met in a real estate community, and it was part of my journey of being more financially educated.
Absolutely.
Because I just woke up one day and I thought, oh my goodness, I have these 8 children. What have I really taught them about money and how to prepare for the future and where to put their money? Because I knew that I wasn't where I thought I would be at that stage of life financially, and that it came back to me. It came back to me and my own personal, had I really spent time learning. And it was through one of our partners we work with now, Chris Crone, who said, you are where you are because that's what you know.
Exactly.
And if you want to have a different outcome or your life to look differently, there are things you have got to know to know how to change, because we just live life according to how our parents taught us to live life, or the people around us are living life. Like, I think it was a great analogy because I had a client tell me the same thing, where the group of people that you're around, the people that you worked with, which were W-2 people, they thought a certain way, and that wasn't the group of people that you wanted to continue thinking like. And that,
100%.
yeah, and it required you to step out of that
To change the
and
environment.
yeah, and change. And so that's even a process of, okay, so you changed your group, and then you changed your, what am I good at, or what do I, not only what am I good at, but also your conversations with people. It was no longer how can I serve you. It was recognizing I have these skill sets to offer. I want, this is what I want to do for you, versus you tell me how I can help you, which to some degree is important, but that can't be the whole premise of your conversation for them to solve your problem.
Oh no, 100%. Loved that.
Your own development. And okay, so
Yep.
now I see it's time for me to work on me so that I can even show up in a way that is different than how I've been showing up in the
Oh,
past.
absolutely. And it changes a lot. Like reading, I mean, oof, English was never a good subject for me because of the reading. I dislike reading books. I've read more in the last year than I have. I'm 32 years old. I've read more in the last year than I have the first 31 years of my life
Yeah.
combined.
I can relate.
And
I'm not
when
32.
you when your mindset starts to change, even looking at what you're pulling from those books are different. And I love what you said um, not too long ago about you are where you are because of what you know. One of my partners in the real estate business, Jim, actually recommended 2 books for us to read. And I've already read Rocket Fuel, like
Mhm.
front to back, multiple times, gone through a lot of that. So he was telling me about the book Traction, and I'm in the process of reading that right now. And you saying that just reminded me of a quote that I took from that book today that I heard a little while ago. And it's the mind is like a parachute. It only works if it's open.
Oh wow, that's a good
Ooh,
one.
that is a really
I
good.
like it.
That
Ooh,
is.
and mine is
Yeah,
like
because I had my sister say to me, because quite a few of our kids have chosen entrepreneurship, and that was the other reason that I thought, oh my goodness, I had that W-2 mindset. My whole family did, that education was everything and as much higher education as possible, and you've got your path set for you. And then when my kid said, that's not my path, I just went into panic mode and thought, oh my goodness, they're going to be managers at McDonald's because it was either right because I didn't have a vision for what else was possible and alternative methods of making a pathway for yourself. And
Mhm.
so I just, yeah, at 32, it's fun that you that this is a path more people are choosing, the one that you've
Yes.
described, even though it's so difficult and out of the norm. I was just going to say, what was your partner, your wife, because you have to have some buy-in along the way of leaving that consistent income of the paycheck, even if it isn't meeting your family's obligations. There's something secure about having a paycheck on a regular basis.
It well, for that and why I jumped into it, honestly, it boiled down to one simple phrase. And there might be a lot of women that are going to laugh at this. Happy wife is a happy life. That's exactly what I tell everybody. She was the one that pushed me into doing it. She's like, it doesn't matter, you just need to do it. So I was so like deep rooted in that W-2 mindset, in that like you go to school, you get your education, you get yourself into a business, you work your way up the corporate ladder, and that's how you take care of your family. I was still in that mind frame when she said, "Hey, we're going to go into business." And I was like, "Hey, no, we're not." I don't know anything about it. So that's literally what it was. It was at that time, it was happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
That one phrase changed it all.
Yeah.
But I'm glad. And even for parents out there, and like you were just saying, it's more and more people are jumping onto this side of things. And it's interesting because the whole reason I went back to actually get my diploma, what wasn't for me, it was for my son, to show him like, hey, this is what you have to do. Here's the due process. If you want to get anywhere in life, stick this out. Now, 4 years later, my line of thinking on that's totally different as well. And as parents, we all know, like, nobody hands you a book and say, here's the true tribe way to do it. It's how you raise your kids. I'm fortunate and lucky enough for everybody that I meet, you, Carolyn, even though we only met today, I'm sure I'm going to see a lot more now that we're friends on Facebook. Miri, you as well. Everybody that I've jumped on Zooms with, everybody that I've been able to watch, the things that they're putting together, what they're teaching other people, my son is learning that. So I'm thrown into a world that in the beginning, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what to do. A byproduct of that is he's been learning as well. He gets to see, I've had people that have put on underwriting Zooms and he sat down and watched it. He's learning things that I can't teach him through the communities that I'm putting myself in.
That's awesome.
Now he's having issues in school, and it's not that he's not smart. It's not wanting to conform to
I
what
love it.
society
Happy to
was
hear that.
last year.
Awesome.
And now I look at it differently. Before, like, I'm pretty sure if this was still 5 years ago, I'd be telling, like, you need to do better. You're doing, 6 more hours of homework every single day. Now I look at it, I'm like, wow, he's not messing up in school because he's not smart.
Right.
He's extremely smart. He's bored.
Yes. 100%.
And I know what he can do with his life. And I have I'm not the richest man, but I consider myself the wealthiest man
Absolutely.
because of my family, because of you guys, because of everybody I get to speak to. Because I know that no matter what, if there's something that I can't teach my son, I know that there are a lot of people that I could reach out to that can teach him. So whatever he wants to do in life, same as building your business, same as building your team, I have the resources to provide for him to lead a better life.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Awesome.
it is awesome. I was thinking about my oldest son. We also work together in the financial business that Miri and I are in, but he also does have the W-2 as well. He's a nuclear engineer. His son is really struggling with
Oh,
math,
wow.
and my son is like, I don't really care that he doesn't get that. He's doing well on the other subjects. I'm grateful that he has that attitude. And he said, we're going to just skip school one day and we're going to go snowboarding. Not that that helps the teacher in the classroom, but he would much rather spend a day with his boys out on the slopes, enjoying the snow and the outdoors than worrying about the math that his son is missing in school.
He's really actually not missing anything, and we know that. I actually talked about it, and that's whole different things with kids. when I started homeschooling, somebody told me, Miri, you can take your kids out of the whole year, even teach them nothing, they will still be ahead. So no worries there.
Yeah.
So
No, but
so
it just
awesome.
is true. There's just a lot of entrepreneurs that have been extraordinarily successful. And my chef son, he said, I would much rather be calling them on the phone and setting up an appointment to go visit with them about how they built their business than sitting necessarily in an entrepreneurship class at the local college and waiting for them to come to me. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, I can talk with them, I can be
Mm.
building my business and be doing the things I really want to do and have no tests along the way.
Well, and most of the
That
classes
right
we've
there.
been taught in academia, the people that teach entrepreneurship, they're not necessarily entrepreneur. They're
Aren't
not.
really building
Yeah.
Most
business.
of them are not business people. It's all theory,
So
which is beyond
yeah,
me.
that right there is a
So
very important lesson with what you just said, Carolyn, as well. With the would rather set up an appointment and go talk to them about how they built their business rather than sitting in a lecture. Mm. One of the biggest things, and I've heard plenty of people say this as they've been in entrepreneurship for a lengthy period of time, when you're still in that W-2 mindset or you're still new to entrepreneurship, you still have that mindset that those big people that are out there, um, think of the really high level gurus. Think of Maxwell. Think of Dan Martell. Think of Tony Robbins. Think of Grant Cardone. Most people with the old frame of mind is, oh, they're wealthy, they're greedy, they're stingy, this and that, and like they just want to be on top. They want the rest of us to serve them. Once you realize, like, start to nail down and hone in on those skills and how you're carrying conversations, how you're presenting yourself, all you have to do is ask.
Yeah.
They're there to teach you. They will teach you. It may be on their terms how they're teaching you, but nonetheless, all you have to do is put yourself out there, tell people what you're doing, and ask. Ask the right questions.
Yeah. Well, and the other beautiful part of it is that they're still out there because they were where you once were,
yeah, absolutely.
and they
Yep.
are where they are now because there's there's things they've learned along the way, and they're saying there's no reason why we all can't be equally successful. It's just a matter of we don't have the systems. We're not with the people that are teaching us the things that will get us to the next level of building our business. And I've just noticing the time that we kind of
Yes,
need to
this is what
wrap
I
up,
was
but
going
we
to
haven't
say.
even really talked about. Okay, so
Ex-
maybe we can go from
we
where we were
will.
to now. This is where you are as an integrator and with systems and helping people to get their systems in place and things. So we were in that conversation of I realized that where my strengths were, and and how long ago, because you were kind of saying this 4 year span of time, so where are we in that 4 years when that aha moment, self-development was the next step for you?
um, that was a year ago, so that was three
Okay.
years into trying to figure it all out. That's where the aha moment kind of hit. That's like double down on working on myself. Um, 6 months into that, once I really started to develop like who I actually am, what my skills actually are, that that aided in changing those conversations that I was having with people and what I was doing even within my own business. I had ended up coming back to real estate because, mind you, there was a good chunk of time that I wasn't doing anything real estate related. Um, so I want to say it was about 4 or 5 months ago. I was like, I'm going to get back into real estate. This is where I started. This is what I wanted inevitably to do as my foundation for where I'm going in life. And then I was able to start talking to the right people. But even then, I was still learning, still kind of trying, or not trying to, but still kind of growing who I was. And I still had some of that mentality is like, I can handle all of this in the business. So let me just interview and bring somebody in to take care of what's right under that next level. But that's when I really started to realize is I need to get out of the level that I'm on if I want to progress because I'm still in a lower level position in my business. Um, so that's where I started having more conversations with like-minded individuals who are they want to grow. They don't want to be stuck in this same position in their business over time. And we got fortunate enough to where we have four partners in our real estate business, and we set goals for what we were going to do 6 months from now, and we accomplished it in 3 months
It's cool.
because we all realized like, here's my strengths, here are your strengths, here's what we'll focus on. We have a team that we already started putting together. I plugged my team in with who they had on their team, really started to kind of delegate, make sure that everybody understood what we were doing. Here's how we're moving forward. 6 months we'll have a property. And 3 months later, like, wow, we did it in half the time, guys. Now let's start replicating this.
Exactly.
I actually have meetings coming up this upcoming week. I have one today to where that's exactly what we're focusing on, developing a little bit more on the what the back end of the business looks like.
Well, that's amazing. And as Caroline said, we are coming to the top of the hour,
Yeah.
and we will have you again since we really only touched about
Oh yeah,
60.
absolutely.
But it's good. Now we have the basic.
I have loved you sharing because so many people can relate to different elements of your
Absolutely.
story because it's part of our story, that hero's journey. I didn't want to stay at it playing small.
One of Another one of my favorite quotes, and I can go with these for weeks on end, is Alex Hermosi says it best. It's simple, not easy. It's very
Yeah.
simple. The answer's
Right.
right there. It's just
And I think the not easy part is because most people are not willing to put the time and the hard work. Because it really is simple. It's but the consistent and doing it every day, showing
yeah,
up. That's what I think the hard things come. It's because it's hard for people. They want to be success tomorrow or yesterday, and it just doesn't
yeah.
work. There's no shortcuts. Let's put it that way.
Oh,
So
100%.
that's a problem. But
And
anyway,
a lot of people, what I've seen too is like, oh well, I already went into a mentorship. I can't do another one. I don't want to do another one because I've already.
you never
The
stop
honest
learning.
truth, you can never have enough mentors. You
Exactly.
can never have enough people that you look up to and who you learn from and the information that you're getting from them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we already figured out in different levels you need different kind of level of mentorship, right? Because you're
Yes.
growing. So, but James, it's been awesome, and we'll have you again
Absolutely.
because we have to cover other areas that we haven't. But we I think a lot of people that will be watching this really can relate and kind of give them an ideas how they can figure out, uh, to get what they want to get. Any last words, Caroline?
I like what Mary said. It can be simple, but it's that consistency of doing the simple things every day and going back and continuing on. I want you to tell people where they can find you and
Yes.
connect with you.
Oh, absolutely. I try to keep it simple. So YouTube is going up. I've got Instagram. It's at the James Zieger. I try to keep it simple and keep it all across the board.
Yeah.
Um, I'm also on Facebook as well.
So you pronounce your last name Zigger and not
Yes.
Zieger. Okay. Okay. Great.
You guys have, if I'm going to talk to you, I'm sure, Caroline and James, I'm sure you're going to hear from me. I know
Yes.
that.
To you and thank you for your time today. It's been wonderful.
Oh,
Loved learning from you.
th thank you guys for your time and everybody watching. It's just as important as mine.
Yes. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.